Alright, it's your boy No Tail Ninja back at it again with another MHA review, and I don't know, the last few chapters I was a little shaky on how I felt about them. I love the actual action and everything that happened in the chapters, but there's a lot of plot elements and things like that that I think that are kind of gone awry, but you know, I'm not gonna let that take away from my enjoyment. I know I've sounded critical, but I'm gonna try my best to, you know, highlight the good more than the bad in this video. But before I get into it, make sure you guys like and subscribe. We got a lot of content coming this month, I hope, because I have been busy as all hell, and I am a one-man band, so I'm trying to write, edit, do all this stuff all at once, and I have so many things planned. Like, just so you guys get a heads up, I'm planning a Shigaraki versus All For One video, I think, next, and I know a viewer requested this a while ago. I still have my thoughts, but I do want to do a Spider-Man versus Deku, like a plot comparison. I just need to find the time to write all these, and I have them plotted out. I just need to get the time to actually record and edit it. But I still got to knock out these reviews, so let's get into talking about this chapter. I think there's a lot of good, but I am still going to highlight some things I found a little weird, but I'm not going to make that the whole theme of it. Anyway, let's get into it. So we open up the chapter where Deku's still reeling from the battle with Shigaraki in the last chapter. As you remember, it looked like he was gearing up for a big attack, and now we kind of see what's going on. As we get the narration from the chapter, as Decay approaches, what will Deku do? As you kind of see, like, through his arms, it looks like what appears to be Black Whip flowing through not only his arms, but his muscle tendons as well. As we get the chapter narration, and it says, from the inside, while I was defending myself with Black Whip, it was unconscious and contracting my muscles. Which, I wonder if this is what happened before during the war arc, because you remember that they mentioned that Deku's arms were reinforced, which is what enabled him to use 100%, but without actually sustaining any internal damage. So I wonder if he's been doing this for a while without realizing he's been doing this. But we could talk about that another time. But Deku proceeds to use a maximum Fajin, and while he gears up for this attack, he remembers all the times that while his training, that he broke his arms, his fingers, and did a lot of damage to himself internally, as he thinks to himself, plus wind pressure, Delaware Smash, and proceeds to create a giant Delaware Smash, kind of kicking up all the air from the decay coming at him to kind of stop the attack that's coming in that was going to wipe out Mount Fuji. And the attack is so powerful, it even kind of blows Shigaraki back a little bit, as he says, "Ha! You're clever, Midoriya. You estimated the extent of my decay and blew the ground away to stop it. It won't be able to spread so far, meaning it becomes less deadly, but it's merely a stopgate measure." Which, I didn't know that about decay. I thought that seeing the destruction that is created in the past, that when it just spreads, it just, anything it touches destroys, and he didn't look that far from Mount Fuji. Seeing that he was able to decay like a whole city in a matter of moments, and it looks like he's only like a few miles away from Mount Fuji, I don't know. I don't know if they ever actually measured the full extent of decay's reach. But anyway, this effort might be for naught, because Shigaraki realizes that he just needs to touch the ground again, because he just needs really one touch and decay spreads again. But Deku creates a smoke cloud, and Shigaraki's gearing to jump up into it when he realizes, wait a minute, the smoke isn't disappearing. And from the smoke comes several black whips and a black chain, and he's like, oh, got it, as Deku comes out of nowhere and completely takes his hand off. So it appears Deku using Gearshift, low gear, he made the smoke screen last a little longer, and he uses black chain to overwhelm the senses so that he can sneak in and attack, which actually one of y'all commented that last week, so shout out to you who predicted that. I'll try to tag the comment here. But anyway, Deku seems to have a better understanding of how Danger Sense works because, you know, he had it, and during his fight with Lady Nagan, he realizes that it could easily be overwhelmed, especially with multiple stimulus, so he's going to kind of use that method to consistently overwhelm Shigaraki's Danger Sense, so he doesn't exactly know where he's going to attack from. But while he's hiding in the smoke, he forgets one really key detail, because N has to remind him, yo, he has search, he can see you. And Shigaraki proceeds to use what I believe is that forcible correct activation ability that All For One always uses. And he tells Deku, not only does he know his location, but he also knows all his weaknesses. And one of his biggest weaknesses is he can't breathe. So he's finally seeing the kickback of Gearshift because Daigo Banjo proceeds to confirm it. And it's kind of cool that we finally got to see that. I mean, it kind of sucks that it's happening now. This is the worst time for that to happen. But it was mentioned like over a year ago. It's been a while since they've actually mentioned it. Like it was several chapters ago. And it was supposed to only last 5 minutes. But like, if I add up the time correctly, I'm pretty sure it's well over 20 minutes since he used it. So maybe he couldn't breathe this whole time. He was just fighting through it. Or maybe the ability was amplified, especially since it's now been amplified by being in One for All. So maybe that time limit he gave was just based on when he had the quirk, but now that it's been amplified since it was the second quirk in there, that it could last a little longer. Who knows? But that was a little inconsistency I noticed from last chapter. But so far, it looks like Shigaraki's reading Deku like a book, because he goes on to say that attack from before is something you can't keep using non-stop. Reinforcing your tendons and muscles from the inside, I can now see that thing through your skin, which he's talking about Black Whip, which I guess that Deku's been fighting so hard that's literally starting to burn through his skin. And he does admit that an attack like that would have caused him some trouble. You just have too much you need to protect, Midoriya. But I won't give up on that crying boy, Midoriya says. And then Shigaraki goes on with his little Joker speech on everyone sees the world through their own lens. As we see people in the bunker and they're all kind of questioning what's happening and what's going on. And Shigaraki continues, and whenever something doesn't make sense, we try to make meanings for it, and all you're trying to do is unravel me through your own pathetic lens. You saw it, right? In the same way I can see your ghost, you can see inside of me. So even deep inside, with the smoke, you should be able to notice. Look carefully. The little boy stopped crying a long time ago. He changed the lens through which he sees the world and turned it into Tomura Shigaraki. There is no suffering left inside of me. And hearing this spiel, Nana decides to make an appearance. And she remembers the conversation she had with Deku about wanting to save Shigaraki. And she just straight up tells him, give up. Some people just can't be saved. He presents the biggest wall in your path of heroism, and it's fine if you can't overcome it. Just finish him in a single powerful attack. Do it, Izuku. Store even more energy than before. Which, yo, that's kind of messed up. That's your grandson you talking about. But I kind of get where she's coming from. Shigaraki is kind of a difficult obstacle for, I think, anyone to overcome. And if this wasn't shonen, he would have been filled with lead by now. But Deku, being the altruistic shonen protagonist he is, he says no. If it was that easy, the pain from the past wouldn't be bothering you so much. If it's swept under the rug, you pretend not to see those who couldn't protect you and swept their pain under the rug. I won't stop fighting until I've shredded that rug with my own hands. And Kudo, who's been a little too relaxed this whole arc, is telling everyone that that's why he opposed Deku at first, because he realized that he thought at first he was a peace-seeking fool, but through looking through his memories, he can see that he just doesn't give up on anyone. He's devoted his efforts and he wants to help everyone. Even Bakugo, who he should have been a kid he hated and didn't see potential in saving, he saved anyway. So he realizes that Deku always chooses to believe in his heart. I don't know if he thinks he's a fool because of that. But while he's doing that, he looks into what I believe is Shigaraki's vestige, and he sees Star and Stripe's hand, and it looks like it's pointing towards something. And he realizes something is inside Shigaraki. And he says to Deku, I don't hate platitudes, boy. As I say, we are betting on you, Ninth. You have to let All for One go, as we see the moment that Deku and All Might met for the first time. Alright, and that is the end of the chapter, and I think this is still a pretty solid chapter. I thought the last few chapters were solid. There's some plot things that I want to talk about. But first, let me highlight the good. I like the strategies that Deku has implemented in fighting Shigaraki. He's used his powers and abilities in ways that I couldn't have thought of. I remember hearing somewhere before that he could potentially have made black chain armor. But I do like that he's using black chain to reinforce his body. I'm not really sure if he's still using a true 100% of his power or if they're just saying that. But it is kind of crazy to think that he could end this battle at any time, he's just choosing not to. But I love how he's known his own quirks better than Shigaraki ever will, so he knows all the weaknesses himself. So he's able to still work with not having danger sense, even though that was probably one of his most useful quirks that he had. I know that a lot of the other ones amplify his strength, but they usually come with some kind of drawback. But danger sense was, without a doubt, the one thing that was keeping him in the fight, so I'm surprised that he was able to still be in the fight while not having it. And I love how no one's kind of buying Deku's altruistic nature, because reasonably, Shigaraki probably shouldn't be saved, and I like that all the other vestiges are kind of highlighting that this guy's a monster, because realistically what's going to happen if they even stop him? They stop him, you still have this all-powerful quirk machine that could literally disintegrate a city in a second. What prison are you going to put him in? And I do look forward to actually seeing this be animated. I feel as if when Deku's talking about his powers and not being able to breathe, that we might actually see that his eyes are actually bloodshot red in this scene, and that he's really fighting for every last breath he can to keep up with Shigaraki. But now that I've done my little compliment sandwich, time for me to give my criticisms on the chapter. And the first thing that's going to probably stand out to not only me, but most people is, didn't Star and Stripe die? Wasn't that the whole thing when she took the quirk from All For One, is that apparently she used up a lot of the Vestiges' power and then died? I mean, I always forget she was going to come back into the story, but I was a little weirded out when I saw her hand show up. Maybe it's just potentially Kudo thinking of Star and Stripe, but he also never met her, so I don't know why he would know what her hand looks like. Or maybe she found a little pocket inside of the Vestige world where she could be safe, but he doesn't have access to the quirk. But this potentially means that they're going to actually fight the quirks from the inside. So, and I always thought that's how the series was going to end, because they've alluded to that a lot. And usually they do allude to stuff that doesn't end up panning out, so I kind of like that they're actually following through on this. Next thing, I wonder how they're going to get Deku's quirk actually to Shigaraki, which the author's probably going to figure out a way to do it, but there's no way of him getting his quirk to Shigaraki without potentially also getting decayed. Now, I'm aware that when he does get his quirk in there, he could still use the Embers of One For All, but I'm not necessarily sure he could use the other quirks, so seeing when he took Danger Sense, he didn't actually have Embers of Danger Sense left. So I believe he only will have One For All's Embers when it's given to Shigaraki. But Shigaraki's body is strong, but I don't necessarily know how strong it is to handle the blowback of One For All, even if he does get it. But he does have regeneration abilities, and he does have a reinforced body, so maybe he can handle it. But to be honest, then what the hell could Deku do in that situation? I guess that they could destroy him from the inside, like Star and Stripe did with her quirks, but Shigaraki's main body without quirks is still able to do a lot of damage, and Deku I don't think would be able to fight him, especially if he could still do his little hand thing, which they've been kind of a little inconsistent on that. If Shigaraki fights him with the power of One For All, there's no way Deku stands a chance with Shigaraki getting a strength amp on top of all his quirks already. And I know the story finally seems like it's going in a direction where it seems that you don't necessarily need a powerful quirk to be powerful. And I think it's kind of a little weird time to do that, especially since we focus so heavily on Deku getting strong enough to fight Shigaraki and truly mastering and learning One For All that he just gives it away in the end. I think it's a little cheesy in my book, but I can still see why people like it because that is kind of a theme. But the way they've shown that someone can be powerful hasn't really been through like motivational speak and through change and positive like structure and laws and reinforcement. It's been through money. The only person that's actually fought with no powers has been All Might, and he had to use a fucking mech suit to keep up with someone as powerful as Shigaraki. I did like the original idea of maybe Deku would just share All For One's power with a bunch of people, but it seems like Horikoshi really wanted to focus on like the one-on-one battles. And through the focusing, I think a lot of characters have been sort of lost in the mix. Like we've seen several characters not even get like any screen time whatsoever. And it does kind of suck, but I understand he doesn't have a lot of time, so you probably realize that he set up way more characters in the beginning that he couldn't focus on towards the end. And I really do wish they kind of do a little spin-off series when this is over. Maybe we'll see these characters in the final chapter, but it does kind of suck to kind of have all these characters, especially like some of my favorites, just straight up get like no attention. But that's all I really gotta say. I'm sorry if that came out a little more negative than I'd like it to. I'm really not trying to be a downer, but yeah, it's towards the end, and a lot of shonen's endings never really sit right with me. They always fumble something towards the end, but it doesn't take away from my enjoyment of the overall anime or manga. But anyway, thank you again for sticking around for another video. As I said, I do have stuff planned for this week. I'm gonna try my best to get it out. I've just been so busy, but my plans are to still get those MHA videos out as well as some Boruto videos, and I think I might try to squeeze in one more Jujutsu Kaisen video by the end of the month. But I'm still kind of working on the Jujutsu Kaisen stuff because that is anime/manga I'm relatively new to, so I'm still trying to learn all the stuff in the universe and still trying to get used to it, but I had to like quickly absorb it because I really wanted to talk about it after finishing season 2. But also be sure to like and subscribe on this video because for some reason YouTube has been really weird about pushing my videos out lately, and I haven't been noticing as much views as lately. Maybe I just need to get better at making content. Maybe it's the algorithm. I don't know, but I'm gonna try my best to still make as much as I can in the next couple days and try to hit my 500 subscriber goal. If I don't make it, it is what it is. It is still more months in a year. I can make it again. But I would really like for you guys to subscribe, and hopefully I can hit it by the end of the month, so that's one less thing I gotta worry about. But still appreciate you guys. Love everyone that's been helping me and coming back every week. So I want to make sure you guys stay safe, my ninjas, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. Peace.